March 19th, 2026. Guys, last night, Israel went rogue on the U.S., and they've done it before in the last week or two, bombing north into Lebanon and further than they normally would. And I said then that they were taking advantage of their big brother's umbrella of protection. Well, last night, they attacked the South Pars gas field, did a lot of damage, and it was one of the kind of off-limit areas like Clark Island. And what I mean by Clark Island was the fact that they took out the military section of it, but left the oil infrastructure. And that really needs to happen. But without telling the U.S., according to the U.S., Israel went in there and started bombing it. Well, gas prices have skyrocketed. And now what has happened, they're not talking about in this article, is that Iran has responded. And now they've hit probably the world's largest liquid natural gas areas in the Middle East in retaliation to Israel going rogue. And what did this do? It continued to put gasoline on the fire. Now, Lindsey Graham is up and jumping and ready and grinning. The more people that die, the more bombs it drops, the more money he makes off of the industrial complex that builds them. And it's like he's like a blood-sucking vampire, very gleeful about sending troops into Iran on the ground now. He's urging that. So we got some sick demons running loose on both sides of the aisle. We know that. But it's in every political spectrum around the globe. Now, again, we're going to look at some more information, but I just want to kind of surmise up what's happening. Israel goes rogue, bombs a kind of off-limit area. That forces Iran to retaliate. Now what they've done is possibly cut off Europe from a lot of natural gas. Now, the U.S. doesn't really depend on the Middle East that much for gas, but the rest of the world does. And Europe has to have the LNG to stay warm. And they use it for, power up their plants for air conditioning in the summer too. But again, that field has been hit. We're going to look at it. But what's the end game? What is the chess moves that we're seeing here? Okay, we don't know if Bibi's alive or not. If he's not, who is running it, and why are they kind of going rogue? We've talked about the burden of Israel, and we've talked about the upcoming battle of Gog and Magog, and it looks like the demons, just, guys, you've seen it in the movies where you got a king sitting there like in the old days, and the evil, I guess his evil controller is whispering in his ear. And it's almost like he turns into an evil or possessed king. And I think those movies had a lot, they had a lot of messaging going on. But anyway, I think that's what's happened. We've got the evil spirits who went forward to the kings of the world, and they're trying to bring about the destruction of mankind as we know it. Okay, so now, now Trump, let me say this, he's kind of upset. But it's kind of crazy to me. He's saying, and even though that Israel went rogue, bombed the Pars oil field, Trump is telling Iran not to retaliate or he'll bomb the hell out of them again. Well, Iran didn't listen, and they took out some major oil and liquid natural gas systems in Saudi Arabia, guys. And these are not things you can fix in a week. They went after the infrastructure that will take years to build back. And what has happened? Trump is already upset about this, even though he said he would retaliate it if Iran did. Well, then Iran has retaliated since this article. But he's also said that because Europe and other nations are very hesitant to come in and help open the Straits of Hormuz, he's about ready to just leave it to Israel and Europe to handle it, he said. Because in a way, he sees maybe that he's been played. I hope he does. Hope he's not one of the original players. But anyway, I think it goes exactly to the evil spirits going to the kings of the world. That's exactly what's happening, guys. We were told about that, so don't think it can't happen. Trump also said Israel would not make any more attacks on Iranian facilities in South Pars unless Iran attacked Qatar. Well, Israel pushed that with the help of people like Lindsey Graham. Israel bombed them, forced Iran to attack Qatar, and he warning the U.S. would attack these facilities if Iran acted against Doha. Well, if you're going to sit there and bomb their southern oil fields, they're going to react. Thank you, Israel, for becoming a worse burden than you already were and continuing this conflict that's going to cost American lives and lives across the planet. You're also sinking Europe. And when I say sinking Europe, guys, we're talking about the major LNG suppliers now are out of business in that particular area. I think it may be the largest in the world. Now, you do have Leviathan, which is an Israeli gas field off the coast of Israel. It's an interesting name in it because that may be the only natural gas supply, or main one, left accessible before all of this is said and done. And then wouldn't that be ironic that Israel would name this giant oil field? And I remember when they discovered it, guys, years ago, and named it. I remember the headlines, Israel discovers the largest natural gas field ever, and named it Leviathan. But wouldn't it be interesting if that was the hook in the jaw that forces the European countries to come into that area because their supply of liquid natural gas is being cut off? And if Trump is in on the entire scheme, which I hope he's not, I hope he's starting to kind of see through it. And I think Pete Hegseth might be a little too friendly with Lindsey Graham. Just saying, there's something going on there about protecting Israel, even though they are causing this intensity in conflict. But the fact that, again, they're rogue, where's Bibi, and how will this work out? But these nations may be very quickly looking at Leviathan and to draw them in there to take that because they have no other choice. We'll see how that works out. Now, Trump wrote on Truth Social, he said the U.S. knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen, Trump wrote on Truth Social. Guys, in some reports, and you got a lot of mainstream reports coming here saying that they think Trump knew it, but you can't trust them. So we don't know if he knew about it or not, to be honest. He appeared not to be happy. Now, my mind keeps wanting to go a little further on this chessboard move. Europe is not friendly to the U.S. They haven't been in a long time. Look at Macron, look at Germany, look at the demons running it. And this is going to weaken Europe very much. Is that one of the end plays of the entire game? Because Europe is overrun. Trump said we don't need them for United Nations help. They can't even help themselves. They're so woke and libtarded. But this will weaken Europe drastically because they depend on it so much, the LNG. Now, they're saying that this move has sent shockwaves through the energy market. And they're saying after attacks on the Gulf energy assets, but those came after Iran's southern SARS oil field was hit. That's why Trump didn't want them hit. Anyway, Brent crude futures surged toward $120 a barrel, with WTI, which is West Texas Intermediate, remained muted around $96 a barrel. We were at 61 not too long ago. And this, again, was today, and it marked a major escalation in the U.S.-Iran conflict. Israeli fire jets struck Iran's giant South Pars gas field, which, again, they only own part of it, with air-delivered munitions, triggering a retaliatory chain reaction in which Iran forces targeted critical energy infrastructure across the Gulf. Guys, in this time, they went upstream. They went and hit the big boys because Israel did it. Israel has become the burden of the nations, and they're gleefully celebrating it by bombing everything they can. I can just see Lindsey Graham in the back seat of one of those F-fighters, laughing and encouraging and blood dripping from his mouth. Sorry, that's a kind of a vivid statement, but that's what I see. We got demons on this planet running loose. It says Iranian drone and missile strikes caused heavy damage to Qatar's Ras Laffan LNG hub, while gas plants in Abu Dhabi shut down. Kuwaiti refineries were hit by drones, and Saudi refining assets on the Red Sea were targeted. Guys, and when they start taking out the refineries, then you're going into years of replacement. So this is catapulted, thanks to Israel, the world into an even worse situation. Just the fact that our gas prices go up is a major means of inflation. I mean, or taxation, war tax, whatever you want to call it, it's going to cost us. And because of this new damage on the refining assets, it's going to cost us a lot for a long time. Unlike temporary shipping disruptions in the Gulf waters of the Strait of Hormuz, they're saying damage to the upstream energy assets such as production and LNG facilities is far more serious and could take months or even years to repair, raising the risk of a prolonged, tight global supply and the risk of increased war. They're saying 20% of global LNG exports originate from Gulf countries, and the latest round of Israeli and IRGC attacks on upstream energy assets shows how the conflict has entered an entirely new phase where energy infrastructure is being targeted. Disruptions at Qatar's LNG facilities threaten to tighten the global gas market, with ripple effects quickly spreading worldwide across Asia, Europe, and even U.S. gas prices. It will affect us, even though we don't directly use that much of their oil. It's a global market, and we're all involved in any price shifts. European natural gas benchmark futures jumped as much as 35% today. They can't afford that, pushing prices to more than double their pre-war levels. Guys, in 4 weeks, or how long has it been now? As traders brace for what only appears to be a prolonged period of disruption from critical LNG hubs that account for a fifth of the world's total supply. Qatar Energy warned earlier that the LNG facilities inside its Ras Laffan industrial city were attacked by missiles, causing sizable fires and extensive further damage. It sounds like what happened, guys, when we saw on Rasput the Oman oil fields there that we watched about a week ago get hit from 700 miles away. He said this could be a game changer for the LNG industry, akin to the attack on Nord Stream, or possibly even worse. This is a sudden disruption with no indication that Qatar could restart anytime soon. Global risk management. They're warning LNG from Qatar could in principle be offline for months, and in the worst case for years. For the gas market, the crisis does not end simply because the war ends and the Strait of Hormuz reopens. Now, take a quick look at this map, guys. You've got Qatar here, Saudi Arabia here, here's Iran. North of here, if you keep going up 100 miles or so, you're going to run into Karg Island. But the oil field is out into the Persian Gulf itself. And you've got a line right here where it splits the Gulf, and Qatar, Saudi Arabia has one half from the center, and Iran has the northeastern half. And this is the oil field, South Pars, right here, and it's part of the very tip of Qatar where the Ras Laffan refinery is. So as Israel came in here and started hitting Asula and parts of this area, then Iran responded. Thank you, Israel. We appreciate it. Now, Trump appeared furious with Israel over the South Par's attack, but he warned Iran that if there were any further attacks on Qatar's energy infrastructure, the U.S. forces would massively blow up the entire gas complex. So that's really encouraging, real encouraging. And instead of getting on Israel's butt for causing this, all you're doing is escalating it right now, President Trump. Now, this is from the actual post. It says, again, Donald Trump, Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The U.S. knew nothing about the particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack, and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facilities. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field, unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case Qatar, in which instance the U.S. of America, with or without the help or consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entire South Par gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. Thank you, Lindsey Graham. Thank you, Israel. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran and of Europe and Asia, Trump. But if Qatar's LNG is again attacked, I will not hesitate to do so. Now, again, I bet Lindsey Graham is sitting on the grave of McCain, drunk, and celebrating that they have finally got what they wanted. The U.S. involved in the Israeli conflict, to the sense that Israel gets a big head, goes rogue, and starts attacking everybody to continue the protective umbrella of our U.S. troops. It's an evil empire. It has been for a long time. Whether you like it or not, I don't really care. I'm too old to care about it. No, I don't care about anything but the truth. So for you Israeli supporters, have at it. But again, Israel was not our father's country. That was Yahweh that El appointed that country. And Yahweh was a god of war. He was also called Vulcan. Anyway, guys, just a heads up on this. Before I go, though, I do want to go and let's look at the current status on oil prices. Now, this is the current board. Stock falls again as oil prices rise. Dow loses 300. It's actually down 412. S&P minus 50. NASDAQ 205 and change. Russell's down. VIX is up, of course. And I bet you I'm not going to look it up, though, but Lindsey Graham's war complex machines are probably very high in their stock prices right now. But let's take a look at the oil and gas. Now, Brent is 112.34. This is at 10:44 a.m. Central Time this morning, and there it goes. It's rising again. But what happened this morning? This thing was up around 115, very close to it. Oil at 97.26 should be 61. Natural gas is up. Check that out. Murban crude, that's where we get the jet fuel and stuff from over there, 123.27 a barrel. Just a few days ago, it had dropped back to 101. But thank you again, Israel and Lindsey Graham. We appreciate you. Warmongering pigs. But that's not very nice to say, but that was the best thing I could think of. Considering that I'm an old redneck and don't give a damn. But guys, this is beyond that. This is a prelude to Gog and Magog, and it is going to be an economic disaster for the planet. Like they said, even if they open the straits today, how are they going to rebuild those refineries they got took out last night because of Israel's rogue bombing? Again, the burden of the world. We're watching it. You watch it, guys. There's going to be a couple good videos coming up. Stay tuned.